Hello everyone, hope you're well, and today's video is going to be all about support and resistance. And I know some of you may be thinking, hey, I know very well what support and resistance is, I'm just going to skip this video and go on to the next one. If you don't master support and resistance, I highly advise against doing that, okay? I'll be going a lot more in depth than just horizontal support and resistance lines. So let's start with the basics though, and let's examine and define what support and resistance is. So I'm going to draw a sample price action here of a coin. Alright, so now what can we see here? We can clearly see that price made a total of 3 attempts at breaking whatever level this may be, right? That means we have resistance at this level. Price is not able to go higher than that. Every time we get close to it, it gets rejected to the downside. So that is resistance. So now let's take a look at the inverse example. So now we have this here, and you can clearly see as well the price was not able to break these levels here, right? It made 3 attempts and was unable to. So what we can conclude is there is support right around this level. And I want to let you know that support and resistance is not exact number. You can't just say that Bitcoin has support at, say, 6,452. This is not valid. Say this is the price action of Bitcoin. This line is a representation of a support region. If this is on Bitcoin, then you can expect this to be somewhere around 6,400 to 6,550, for example, because this is not an exact science, right? There's some support, there's some buying demand at this region. And the same can be said if you turn this around and you have on resistance, not an exact number, it's a region. Now, support and resistance is a lot more than just horizontal lines. There are multiple forms of support and resistance, as you will see in this video, all right? But first of all, I'm going to pull up charts of other coins, and I'm going to be identifying support and resistance on the chart so you get the hang of it. All right, so we're going to go over some examples of support and resistance on Bitcoin chart, and we're going to go over some other coins as well. You can find support and resistance on any time frame. So let's start off by analyzing on a daily level. So you can clearly see here some major support and resistance right away off the bat, right? I'm going to be using Alt-H to put horizontal line. So just press Alt-H and it draws a horizontal line. So I like to keep my support as green and my resistance as red. And you can customize this chart to be as visible as you want it to be. So I like to keep mine slightly dashed, right? And to the minimal. So that is obviously a resistance point. And you can find another one here, resistance point as well, because you can see the price tried to breach these multiple times and was not able to. On a grand scheme of things, you can see here that Bitcoin had some key support at 6,000, still does, right here. So that would be green. You can tell it had a lot of resistance at 12,000. Why? Because we tried breaking 12,000 quite the amount of times. We tried here, we tried here, we tried here as well, and that's plenty of times to validate this as a brutal resistance line. So let's get rid of this and put in Alt-H, double tap. So that is resistance. Another very strong resistance, both at the price level and psychological level, is at 10,000. We tried breaking 10,000 here, we tried again here, and the last time here. 3 taps is plenty of taps. You only need 2 to validate a support or resistance. So here, this is obvious resistance as well. Lastly, we have the last one here at 8.5, which proved as very strong resistance. So 8.5 was tried to breach over here, and over here, and right here as well. So again, 3 taps, plenty of reasons why this is a crucial resistance. Now, it's important to note that when resistance is broken, it becomes support, and when support is broken, it becomes resistance. So let's use an example of that. Let's pretend we only had price action until here, right? You can clearly see that there was a brutal resistance at 6,800, right? Which we tried to break over here. We tried breaking over here and over here, all right? So this is the 6,800 level, and we tried breaking it multiple times. If we were only here, this is clear resistance, right? So Alt-H resistance, but we crossed it. since we crossed it, this will now be support. So if you want to keep these lines on your chart, all you have to do is change the color. So it was broken. This still acted as resistance, but the support was broken yet again here. So all you got to do is double tap it, and it is now resistance once more. So now let's look at a few of the coins, identify major resistance support levels. One of my favorite coins at a trading level is EOS. And let's come right here. You can clearly see that this level here was very strong resistance, but then we crossed it, so it became support, right? Became support. It tried to go all the way up, and it found very strong resistance right around this level. So we put one there, make it red. So once we come down here, this became very strong resistance as well. So then we had support here, and because we broke down support, we broke down correctively, right? So very strong impulse down. So this now became resistance. So then you're sitting here and you have some support. We broke this level, so this became support, green. If you look right here, just see how important these lines are. If you look right here, it was support and it bounced off it, but then we broke down, and that's why we broke down decisively. So then it became resistance again. But then we broke out of it, and that's why we broke out decisively, because it was a key resistance to break. So then we broke it, and then that became support. But then it failed. Because it failed, it dropped down very, very correctively. So then this became resistance again. So now we're sitting here, and where's the next support? And you can clearly see here that this was a huge level of resistance before, but then we crossed it. Right here we crossed it, so it became support. That's the level you could look at for a bounce, or at least a consolidation. And look what happened. It did. It clearly consolidated and bounced off of it multiple times. Eventually broke down from it. So this became resistance at this level right now in August. So now you're sitting here at EOS at $4.60, and the last support before a total collapse would be here at the $3.80 mark. So let's take a look at other coins. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Alright, and I've made my thoughts on Ethereum very clearly, and I posted that today, and today is August 13th. And you can see my post if you're watching this in September or later. You can go back and see my thoughts of an Ethereum. So then Ethereum is quite the coin to trade, right? Let's start a journey, okay? Let's start a journey right from here. So assuming this is all we have over here, okay? So you can clearly see that this here became strong support, right? We then went on price discovery, right? But then we started the retrace. This here, clear resistance, that was all-time high. So all-time high and all-time low is obviously, needless to say, huge resistance and support levels. So say we only have this amount of information. When we're coming up here, this level right here was resistance. It was resistance we couldn't break down. So then we broke way below it, $200 drop, but then we broke above it. So this became support. And it acted very much nicely here by catching this falling knife. It broke down all the way to support, but it bounced right back up. So this proved to be very accurate support. So then here, you can't break this level nor this level. So they both act as resistance. So now the coin is here and is breaking down, and it broke down from this key support. So this became resistance. I'm just doing this repetitively so you get the hang of it. When it broke down, you might be thinking, it's breaking down, where is it going to go to? Where's the next support? Next support, as we saw, it was here. So look how well it played out. It played out perfectly. So this maintained support, and it added strength to this level. So this level here between 350 or 365 and 400 became even stronger support. Every time you go to a support and resistance level and bounce back from it decisively, it just creates more credibility to that region. So because we bounced back in here and here so decisively, this became even stronger support. So then you had this level here that you broke down, right? So this became resistance, and look how well it played out. It could not breach it. So you see how important these levels are, right? So it couldn't breach it. So then you're looking at this level again to find support. And what happened? It broke down just recently, which I made my post of today, reminding you of the fact of the ICO problem involved with Ethereum. If you're interested in that, go ahead. I'm sure that will be a timeless one, so make sure to read that one. So this here now acts as important, very, very important and strong resistance. So now we are sitting on major support. This is the last support level before we break down to the mid 150s, right? So this right here is support. Why? Because back then it acted as a clear bounce line here. So that's the support and resistance on the daily time frame for Ethereum. So now let's take a look at Litecoin. So Litecoin, similar story, clear support here in this region, right? So this was a clear support. We moved up exponentially, much like pretty much every crypto back in December, right? The reason we fell this hard, a drop of 50% in a matter of a couple days, is because there was no support holding this. We didn't retest, we didn't retrace, we was constantly parabolically moving up, so there was no support. That's why we broke down the way here. But then this becomes support, right? Because we bounced right back off of it. So now you have resistance here, obviously all-time high. So now you come here, you bounce, you're hovering around here, you can't quite pass this mark here. So this is clear resistance. So then you come all the way down to this level and you break it, so this support now becomes resistance. But then you break right past it. That's why we broke so decisively, because this was a key resistance level which now becomes support. And once more we break down from it, becoming an even stronger region, but now for the resistance side. So then we come down, we find support here for the time being, so this becomes support. We bounce back from it, and because we bounce down and we don't hold this level, that's why we broke down decisively. The same can be said again, once we go up decisively because it was a key region, right? And once more, look at it, the resistance level that was so important here was again so important here. So then we couldn't pass this level, meaning we broke down from it, and we had this key support holding us, which failed, so now we come down, right? And then we have this last cluster of support right here. Turn the screen. This was the level that we could be looking into, and we had this support, and we had this support, right? Because of this bounce here. But then we broke out of all of them, and that's why we broke decisively, because these were key support levels that now became resistance. And much like Ethereum, you are now sitting on the last major support before a complete meltdown and capitalization. So then if this doesn't hold, you're looking at these levels here between $25 to hold as support. Alright, so I feel like you have a much better understanding of horizontal support line. So let's go back to Bitcoin, and I want to go over this on a shorter time frame. You should always have these support lines for the daily level. The daily chart is the most important one, so no matter what time frame you're trading, you should always have these levels on. So then we go on to the 1 hour chart, and we can find much different support and resistance levels. You can see here we're range bound in between these two, but inside there's more support and more resistance. This here was a clear resistance, which we broke out of and then became support. So it's already green. So it became support. We couldn't break this, which is already the daily resistance. So then once we collapse below this level here at the 7,800, it breaks down decisively, right? Because there was no support before that. So here, this becomes resistance. And now you're looking only at the 6,800 region to hold. So that is support. So then price is reacting already prior to the support line, this cluster here, and then it breaks down decisively, all right? That was a brutal 10% drop in a matter of a day because this support did not hold. So this becomes resistance. So now we're sitting here live, and you have the maximum level support here, the most important in Bitcoin's life at 6,000, and then you have minor support right now here at the 6,200. So this will still be support right now. And this can be done on any market, on any stock or coin, penny stock, forex, on any time frame, okay? These are always valid, and these are levels that other traders are looking into, making them even more important. So now that you have horizontal support clear the way and you know exactly what it means, support will also be found in many other ways. So I don't want to get into a lot of indicators right now because I'll go over in my indicators in a lot more depth in the future videos, but let's go over some of the forms of support and resistance. So let's clear all these out of the graph. I'm sure you've heard about moving averages, right? Let's go here and put a few moving averages. No need to follow along on TradingView with me. I'm not going to go over and explain moving averages on this video. I will be showing you in a future one. So if you come in here and you put in moving averages, let's actually put more than one. Let's put the major moving averages there, which I'll be going over in great detail in a future video. So just follow along. No need to actually take notes or anything. So let's put 3 moving averages and let's put them as 200, 150. Okay, because these are important lines, traders will look into these lines for support and resistance. So let's look at a few examples here. As you can see, this 200 moving average held quite nicely as resistance here. So you can see it made 2 attempts at breaking past this. In combination with a 10K resistance line, it held quite nicely, right? You can use these in many other time frames as well. So let's go here on the 30-minute. And you can see, let's say this one here is the 200 moving average. And you can see that price tried breaking it multiple times as well as the 100. So you can see it added strong resistance to the price action. And once it broke out of the 100, it was looking to break out of the 200 and it failed. In the bull run, you can look at these for support and not resistance. So you can see here that this is likely to be the 50, 55, yeah. So 55 moving average held pretty nicely here as support. And then the 200 did its job and held the price action as support on these levels here until it broke down out of it. So then we can go to 1 hour and you have price action in a different time frame for you to take another perspective at. So here you can also see that on the 1 hour chart, the 100 moving average held quite nicely in here, all right? So now that that's out of the way as well, let's go over support and resistance in terms of trend line and chart patterns. So in the next videos, I'm going to be showing you chart patterns, but because this is the support and resistance video, I will be showing you that portion of that video here. There's obviously here a pattern that is forming, this triangle here. It's called the descending triangle, and this acts as support and resistance, very much so. After it had 2 taps, which was here, this line was already formed. So in here, you can see it added as resistance, and here even further so. And in the bottom, you can see that it was clear support for this formation. It bounced here, it bounced here, 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 and is bouncing here again right now. So this is clear support for Bitcoin at $6,000. So now let's look at a closer time frame and other chart pattern. So let's take a look at here. You can see here we're forming some pattern here. You can draw always trend lines to see the patterns in better formation. And you can see here that this pattern held true. So you had multiple taps here. So at this point, once you only had this amount of information here, you could already draw the line. So we drew the lines and look how nicely they played out here. They acted as clear support here. But once they broke out decisively. Why is that? Because other traders know this, and other traders were looking at this level here, this line, to be broken. So when it got broken, this added a lot to the sell pressure, as a lot of traders were looking for it to be broken to sell. Let's look at this example here. There's plenty of examples. Trend lines are everywhere. So here you have 1, 2 as well. And in here you have 3 taps. So here you're in a parallel channel. And look what happened once it broke down of it, right? Once it broke down decisively. So this is a 12% drop. This is no joke. This is quite the amount of a drop. So then this held as resistance. You can see it tried to go back into the parallel channel and reject it again. And then 1 tap, it tried and rejected again. And then it made 2 last attempts only to break down to the downside. All right, so you can see how important these support and resistance lines can be. Support and resistance is visible in horizontal lines, psychological levels, trend lines, and indicators. Say when we were here and this was already established. Let's pretend we don't have further information and all we have is up to this point. You had 1 tap here, 1 tap there. So here, this is already valid. It's already the beginning of it. So without seeing any of this, let's put a box over it, pretend we don't know what's going to happen. This is all information that we don't have. But at this point, you can extend your trend line to where it will be. So then here, because you have 1 tap and 2 taps here, you can extend your trend line to see where it would be. So look exactly what happened. So let's make this exact. You can make the trend line here at this point, March 5th. This was valid since then. So if you were making it since then, you would have been trading the range quite nicely until then. And look right here. Look how important it was, this trend line, once we broke out of it to the upside. This is on the daily chart, so this is quite massive. So this here is a 15% jump once we broke clear out of this pattern. And in here, we melted down another 10% once we broke back inside the pattern. So obviously, these support and resistance levels are of crucial importance. Alright guys, so I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.